part where we all
These
start to
mics
sit
are,
here.
they're on.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Good.
Is a Teamster going to beat the crap out of me for adjusting my own mic?
You might be in trouble. I've dealt with these sound people before. They are rather, they are pros. They're doing a great job today. I'm gonna check and see what time it is here. How are we doing on time? We're gonna, 4:02. I turned my silence on here, but my wife sent me these phone messages. Constantly. 4:02, very good.
I thought you were gay. What's up with you NPR straight dudes? You're just so faggy seeming.
Proximity. I'm gay for you. You make me blush a little bit.
It's our centrifugal force.
All right, so,
There's nothing wrong with being gay.
Or
not, that's right.
I'm gathering that today.
It's all good.
We want this to be a safe space for you.
I think we're doing a good job.
Enough about me. Okay, I'm going to give you all the chance to react a little bit to the things that you've heard each other say today. I've heard Kendall talk about the notion of morality versus separation of church and state, the notion that there is some strategy in alliance building and coalition building. We've seen Sharon's work, which is about art events that are protests that aren't protests, and that have a certain meaning for the people involved, and a certain meaning for the happenstance observers. Just your sheer force of personality and comedy and wit and way of exposing the hypocrisies, these are all, it seems like the conversation to be had here between the three of you is about the cultural shift, the cultural front. I heard you say, Dan, that the legal battle is like World War I, and the cultural battle with the struggle is like Vietnam. Let me have you guys talk about where you are with where you think this movement is with as far as its cultural progress.
I'd like to say, addressing something you said, Sharon, I don't think that the gay marriage movement is any way a betrayal of the ideals of the Gay Liberation Front or queer radicalism. I'm, a recovering drag queen. I still have the bent up toes to prove it. And I write a sex advice column, and my boyfriend's a DJ and an artist. When I wrote The Kid, I had gay parent groups tell me not to tell my truth because we weren't the right kind of people. We had gay people tell us when we were adopting we weren't the right kind of gay people to adopt because we weren't doctors and lawyers, we weren't these safe assimilationists. And I think assimilation is only evil if you're not allowed to bring your own self and your own history and your own sexuality into whatever it is you wish to be assimilated into. If you must compromise on the way in or betray others on the way in. And I don't think gay marriage, the movement, is necessarily a betrayal of those things. I think some people act like it is or should be, gay and straight, but I think that we can march in on our own terms and have it on our own terms and transform the institution by our presence.
Yeah, I think that maybe the first thing to say is probably obvious to all of us, but that the gay marriage movement isn't monolithic. It's not one thing by any means, nor have any of the kind of historic queer struggles been that. I think what I was trying to point to is some of the legacy of those points of debate, and the place where we also, as queer people, have work to do around keeping that diversity and keeping the openness for people to come with all of that, the kind of baggage, the good baggage.
And I work to do that myself. I always say when I do debates or talk about gay marriage, even on Christian hate radio, that my boyfriend and I are not monogamous, which you're not allowed to say. Mm-hmm. Even Andrew Sullivan and other people who argue for gay marriage always say committed monogamous gay couples should have this right. And that is, again, not a standard we apply to committed heterosexual couples. Bill and Hillary Clinton are still married.
Right.
And so I think, I don't know why I'm saying. except for that stated in my speech.
I mean, for me, there's also, I think that there is always this tension within these kind of questions around what it is that we want ultimately politically. And I think that this thing that Kendall was bringing up about attaching the demand, like attaching to the demand for civic marriage equality, attaching to that demand a more sort of diversified push for legal recognition for a number of different non-traditional kinship relationships, long-term care relationships, etc. That for me is also part of what I was, part of what I'm invested in and interested in as an artist is the possibility that that through this push we are also pushing to kind of break through what the debate is actually really about, which is and does have to do with competing ideological positions.
I mean, usually what you hear is, and I'd love to hear what you thought about this, that one of the dings from like the gay left or the sex radical movement is that the gay marriage movement is wholly about an elitist movement, gay white men, rich, who want to get married. And when I looked at the pictures that ran in the Boston papers of all the couples who married the first day in Washington, D.C. when same-sex marriage was legal, who all looked like working class, African Americans, Latinas, not a whole bunch of HRC gay white men guys in tuxes. Do you think...
The fact of the matter is, Dan, that you and your boyfriend are not the face of the organized movement for gay marriage, and there's a reason for that. People want to get married for a lot of reasons. That is, say, gay men and lesbians who are currently not allowed to get married want to get married civilly for a lot of reasons. But I do think that the range of arguments and of political strategies that the movement as such has used has been quite restricted. And I think of it really by way of a comparison, and I want to say, before I say anything more, that I'm not about to argue that race and sexuality are the same thing, or that racism is like homophobia. Okay? I cannot help but see the similarities, however, between the politics of racial reputation, in which African Americans in particular, but other people of color, thought that the way to gain equality was to show white middle-class Americans that we hold and aspire to live up to the same values as white middle-class Americans. That politics of moral respectability, which is a moral politics, and moral politics, George Lakoff and others have told us, is fashionable. That politics of moral respectability has been not simply one, but the dominant strand, as I see it, in gay lesbian marriage politics, notwithstanding the fact that you've observed, and I think you're right here, that there are lots of different kinds of gay men and lesbians who want to get married, who are of all races, all religions, all classes, and the like. The fact of the matter remains that the politics, the dominant politics that the movement has pursued is a politics of moral reputation and a politics of respectability, at whose heart is the basic claim, we're just like you, except for what we do in bed, right? And this question of social difference, of equality across social difference, the granting of equality to people who are not alike, but who nonetheless claim to be treated alike, was for me one of the central aspirations, and to the extent that it was successful, one of the most important achievements of what we now call the gay liberation movement. And that legacy is important to me. It's particularly important to me when I consider that, notwithstanding all the changes that we know have happened in the institution of marriage, that institution nonetheless bears within itself the sedimented history of the fact, for example, that in its origins it was primarily a means for transferring property. It bears within itself the sedimented history of the fact that throughout much of its history, it was a way for men as a social group to dominate women as a social group, and so forth and so on. And I think as a matter of practical political strategy, we have to keep all that in mind.